Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind Podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Thursday. It's November 28th. Happy Thanksgiving. It is 2024. Here to talk Week 13 NFL slate. Riding solo this week. Noto is traveling for Thanksgiving. So hopefully everyone has a fantastic Thanksgiving. Hopefully Noto has a great Thanksgiving. He'll be back with me next week. Really late podcast between getting the NFL stuff for premium done for Thanksgiving slate and everything, and getting some research done. I don't like coming on and not having any research done, so a little later than usual. 2:30 in the morning? So I'm assuming a lot of people are going to listen to the podcast of this. So while you're driving to families' houses and ready to eat some turkey and enjoy some football on Thanksgiving, just wanted to say, very thankful for everyone that always tunes in, hangs out on the show. Appreciate you all very, very much. What's up, Yeezy in chat? Really late, hanging out over there. All right. Didn't think anyone would come on and hang out and chat for this one because it's so late, but solo NFL podcast this week. Going to break down what I like. This is a really awesome NFL slate. I mean, a ton of awesome plays. I mean, we have one, two, three, 4 games with totals over 47. So we should have some really good football this week. So again, it's Thursday, early 2:40 in the morning. Some stuff is going to change throughout the week, but here's a first look at NFL. Getting started with the Chargers and the Falcons in Atlanta. 47.5 total in this game. The Chargers a 1-point favorite. Dobbins doubtful is huge news here because Edwards is 4,300. He's really cheap, and he should just jump right into the starting role, be a workhorse back here for this team. So obviously a lot of interest in him. I mean, we could potentially see them run out Vital, but I assume that it's going to be Edwards. He did get a little bit of work earlier this year when Edwards was banged up, but I really do think that we'll see Edwards kind of move into that Dobbins role. And I mean, it's a really good matchup for him in this matchup against Atlanta. So very interested in Edwards at this price point. Again, like 22nd in run EPA. So I definitely have a lot of interest in this matchup for Edwards. Just he's too cheap. He's just too cheap at 4,300 with Dobbins doubtful. So as far as the passing game, I mean, honestly, I don't hate the passing game here. McConkey has been really solid, just consistently solid. Disley's banged up, so we'll see if he plays. He's dealing with a knee. Hurst got put on the IR on Monday, right? Yeah, Monday or Tuesday. So we'll see, because with Hurst going to the IR, if Disley plays at 4K, I have some interest in him. He's just been very, very consistent. Quentin Johnson is a guy that you could definitely take some shots on, depending on how many teams you build. I don't hate this matchup for Herbert at 5,600. Atlanta is definitely a matchup I like to pick on with quarterbacks. We've had plenty of success with quarterbacks against Atlanta this year. They're allowing the 8th most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. So definitely don't mind getting some Herbert stacks if you want to maybe pivot off of the Edwards chalk, but definitely going to be looking at Chargers in this spot. And then going to the Atlanta side, I don't like Kirk Cousins as much, but I do like the pieces around him. Bijan really coming on strong here recently, coming off of a bye week. Struggled against Denver. That was a really tough matchup for him, but just, again, getting so much work out of the backfield passing-wise. And, I mean, the run blocking for Atlanta has just been phenomenal here over the last 6 or 7 weeks. So a lot of interest in Bijan. Drake London, healthy, ready to go, 6,500. Obviously have no issues with him. Waiting to see on this Mooney hamstring injury. he was banged up before the Denver game. If he were to sit here, Ray McLeod is 4,300. That would be definitely enough for me to play him. So obviously very interested in McLeod. And then I hate playing Kyle Pitts. 4,600. It's a fair price tag. I think you're going to find better plays by the time this slate rolls around at tight end, but we'll see. Because, I mean, the Disley thing matters. You know, he's a tight end that I have some interest in for sure. But, I mean, I don't necessarily hate the idea of playing Kyle Pitts. Just not my favorite play. I think that is... sorry, I'm getting distracted by making notes here. I was making a note really quick about watching that Mooney injury because I think like the Mooney injury matters a lot in my opinion because I mean we have a lot of potential value in this game just in general with the Edwards price, and if Mooney sits, we would have a lot of value. So just making a quick note for myself as we got rolling here. So I think that's it from this one. Moving on. And I do have some defenses that I like this week, and I don't think I end up on a defense in this particular matchup. Pittsburgh at Cincinnati, 47 total in this game. Cincinnati, a 3-point favorite here at home against Pittsburgh. Starting here with the Pittsburgh side, I think Russ getting pulled a little bit in that game last week against Cleveland was more of just Justin Fields trying to spark something in the snow. Obviously, it's something to watch and pay attention to, but I assume Russ is good to go here. I mean, I have some slight interest in Russ just because I feel like the stack is very clear. Just Pickens, Russ stacks is definitely the way that I would build teams here. Cincinnati, a team that I definitely don't mind picking on. They're a team that really struggles with the pass and the run. They're 30th in run EPA, 23rd in pass EPA. It's just I never can get Harris or Warren right. I mean, I prefer playing Najee, but Warren is still there. Warren is still the guy that feels like he comes in and gets the touchdowns from time to time. So I know he only has one touchdown this year, but they use Patterson still too. Like I prefer if I was going to play a running back here, Najee. It's not my favorite spot. It's not the worst spot on the slate for a running back. So if I end up in that price range at $6K, I mean, there's a lot of potential plays in this price range. So I still don't even think I end up on him a lot. Bucky Irving is like $200 less, and he's going up against Carolina. So we'll talk about him in a couple games here. But the Cincinnati side, obviously, Chase is someone I have a lot of interest in here. I know it's a tough matchup, but Pittsburgh has struggled a lot more here over the last 3 or 4 weeks against pass. So Burrow coming off of a bye, just absolutely chucking. If you look at his last 3 games, he has 12 touchdowns. So a lot of interest in Joe Burrow if I want to pay up, but I don't think I'll end up paying up a lot. I know I said Jamar Chase, but I also like Chase Brown. His role is just phenomenal right now. And with Zach Moss on the IR, his role should not change. So I think even in a tough matchup here against the Steelers, Chase Brown's just on the field too much. And he's a guy that can get involved in the passing game. I mean, you look at it, and he has 23 targets over the last 3 weeks on top of, 62 carries. So Chase Brown, phenomenal play. Just going to keep playing him. And like I mentioned, Jamar Chase. I mean, this guy is just double-digit targets in 4 straight games. Over 20 DraftKings points in 3 of those games. Just absolutely crushing right now. T. Higgins is still here. I mean, if you think that it's a really tough matchup, which it is, it's a tough matchup for Jamar Chase. So if you are worried about the matchup, take some shots here on T. Higgins. He's not a bad play by any means. I don't think I get to the tight ends in this game. Fairmuth is too touchdown dependent. And with Higgins healthy, I don't like playing Gesicki as much. Houston at Jacksonville, 44 total in this game. Houston a 4-point favorite. Start with Houston side. It's hard not to absolutely love CJ Stroud in this matchup. Jacksonville can't stop anybody when it comes to the pass. So Stroud at 6,400 could be one of the safer high ceiling plays on the slate. Joe Mixon, really like this spot for Mixon if you're not playing Stroud, but I think the Houston offense is going to roll here. I think this is a good Nico Collins spot. Like, you could potentially take some shots on Tank Dell, but when Nico's out there, he's the guy. He came back and he has 16 targets over the last 2 weeks. They had a tough matchup last week against Tennessee, and then his first week back, it was against Dallas, and Joe Mixon just absolutely crushed Dallas for, I think he had 3 touchdowns. So 3 touchdowns for Joe Mixon. Like Houston a lot. I don't even necessarily hate the Houston defense here. I would like them a little bit more if they weren't so expensive. Jags side, Lawrence practiced a little bit, so we'll see if he plays. I like the Jags more if he plays. Don't love the running backs here. I think that they're going to get behind in this game. I think we see Etienne and Bigsby, with Bigsby being practicing on Wednesday. So I think you see both of these guys. I think if we get news that Lawrence is back, I think we could take some shots on Brian Thomas and Evan Ingram as potential run backs more than anything else here if you're playing some Houston players. But I think they are much better plays with Lawrence at quarterback. I will say, I probably like Ingram regardless. But Mac Jones, he hasn't looked good. We'll be really nice and just say that he really hasn't looked good. Jacksonville scored 13 points over the last 2 weeks with Mac Jones. And like Easy in chat just said, Brian Thomas Jr. is 5,500. We've seen him go over 20 fantasy points multiple times this year with Lawrence at quarterback. So I want Lawrence to play. And I think he has a lot of upside if he does, or Brian Thomas Jr. does if Lawrence plays. Arizona at Minnesota. Good games. Just keep on rolling, right? 45 total in this game. Arizona 3.5-point favorite. Starting with the Arizona side. You got to pass on Minnesota. They are really, really tough defense against the run. They're allowing the fewest rushing yards per game at 74.7. So I think this is a really tough spot for James Conner. Just overall, I know he could get work out of the backfield in the passing game. I personally could see Benson even getting out there a little bit more in the passing game this week. I think that this is a great spot for Marvin Harrison. I know, keep taking shots on this guy. He had 6 targets last week. Really love the air yard share that we continue to see. But how do we not have interest in McBride? This game script is going to be a pass-heavy game script for Arizona. He's coming off a 15-target game against Arizona, or against Seattle, sorry. Really like McBride. Minnesota has definitely struggled more against the pass. They've really struggled with outside receivers. That's why I like Harrison in this spot. Going to the Minnesota side of this one, I think this is where it kind of flip-flops. I have some interest here in Jones. This is a really, really solid spot for him. He's not overly expensive, and running backs just continue to kind of do their thing. So have some interest in Aaron Jones. I don't necessarily love Sam Darnold in this spot. I know he's had some really solid games, but I think Jefferson is Justin Jefferson. If you're playing a lot of teams, you have to have exposure to him just because of his ceiling. I know that Addison had an incredible game last week against Chicago. Really like where his target share and first read rates are kind of trending. So I don't think it's a fluke by any means that Jordan Addison had a good game against Chicago. So I don't mind some shots on him. And then Hawkinson, he's starting to get healthy. We see him out there running more routes. he's really, really cheap. So I don't mind Hawkinson here at 4,400. Oh, 9 targets in 2 of the last 3 games. And I think this is going to be a good football game. So a lot of pieces I like here. I mean, Jones, Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson. A lot of pieces I like for Minnesota this week. I think I said Arizona -3.5. It's Minnesota. I wrote it down wrong. It's Minnesota -3. I was like, man, I gotta open up my phone. I would insta bet Minnesota +3.5 in this spot. All right, we got the Colts and the Patriots 42.5 total in this game. The Colts a 2.5 point favorite. I mean, this just seems like the perfect like Jonathan Taylor type game. The Colts like to run the ball, and the Patriots can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass either, for what it's worth. But this just seems like Jonathan Taylor gets 25 carries, goes for 20 plus fantasy point type game. So a lot of interest in him. I mean, I don't mind Richardson just because of his rushing upside. I mean, we could see him get one to 3 rushing touchdowns and pay off this price tag tremendously. So I don't mind him. We're watching the news here on Downs. He's dealing with a shoulder injury. Pierce is banged up as well. He's dealing with a foot injury. If these guys are out, Pittman's really cheap. So I think I would need Downs to be out for me to play Pittman. If Downs is good to go, he's cheap at 5,400. I'd have some interest in him. New England's pass defense, their run defense is just not great. Looking at the stats here, New England is 30th in pass EPA, 16th in run EPA, allowing the 10th most passing yards and the 15th most rushing yards per game. So definitely some interest here in the Colts. Some slight interest in New England. I think this is a spot Drake May could play really well. You look at Drake May. I mean, I definitely agree. If they Colts receivers are out, Mitchell is great at getting open. So I'd have a lot of interest in Mitchell, especially with his like air yard share and stuff. So yes, great point, DZ408. If Pierce and Downs sit, I would have a lot of interest in Mitchell. New England side, for me, I mean, I don't hate this spot for Stevenson. We've been picking on the Colts run defense all year. Like I said, I think Drake May has the potential to play well in this game. It's just really hard to figure out, like on a weekly basis, on a weekly basis, who is going to get the targets. I mean, I want to play some New England runbacks here just because I don't think they're going to have any ownership. But it's more of, I mean, who's going to be out there getting the targets? I mean, Bourne, they're all really cheap. I mean, I think the easy answer for New England is probably just play Hunter Henry because he gets so many targets. Hooper's out there, but I mean, Henry's there. Last week, Henry had a 20% first read rate. Douglas had a 20% first read rate in that game. Douglas ran 70% of the routes on dropbacks. Boudier, he ran 30 or 83% of the routes. Still continues to be like the deep threat in this offense. Hunter Henry is like the short. Him and Douglas are like the short, easy catch kind of guys. I know Douglas is dealing with a little bit of an ankle injury. If he were to sit, I'd have a lot more interest in Bourne and even maybe take some shots on Jalen Polk. I'm going to play Boudier regardless. Regardless. He's just way too cheap, but I really like Henry in this spot. Again, this should be a really good like game script for New England throwing the football. So I want to play some New England guys. I just don't think they're going to have a ton of ownership. I was looking at ownership prior to the show, and yeah, no one over 10%. Hunter Henry is at 9%, but realistically, no one really too chalky here. Also, don't necessarily hate the Colts defense in this game. They have been getting after the quarterback more. They've had some upside here recently. They were a team that I wrote down that I liked for defense. Seattle at New York facing the Jets, Jet, Jets. Seattle 2-point favorite on the road here, 42 total. Going to the Seattle side first, I mean, Jets defense is still really good. They have struggled against the run basically all season. So I think this is a spot you could take some shots on Walker, but do we really want to? I mean, here's the thing, and I talk about it. I feel like I talk about this every week. Seattle's throwing the football the fourth most in the NFL this season, 66.8%. They throw the ball a ton, and if you look at the first quarter and the second quarters, or first half and second half, they throw a ton. So I have a ton of interest in the passing attack here. I think we're going to see DK Metcalf give it a go. I want to see DK Metcalf give it a go because I want to see him draw the tough coverage. I think this is a JSN game. I think that he is an excellent tournament play this week. Watch the Tyler Lockett news. If he were to give it a go, I'd have some interest. Noah Fant, I just think there's better tight end plays, but I think this is a JSN week. I really do. I'll take some shots on DK Metcalf too, just because Seattle throws the ball so much. So the Jets' pass defense has been really good all year. We know how good this pass defense is, but they have struggled a little bit more recently. I think this is a JSN week. On the Jets side, Breece Hall is questionable. He's dealing with a knee injury. They're hopeful that he's going to play. We'll watch and see. One thing that I thought was really interesting when I was digging into some stuff earlier today and here a little while ago, but the Jets throw the ball 70% of the time inside the 10. So the running backs, like Breece Hall, I was trying to figure out last week, like why Breece Hall really just hasn't had as much ceiling as I kind of had hoped for him. I drafted him a lot in best ball this year. And it's more of they throw the ball a ton. They leave it to Aaron Rodgers to toss the ball around. So, I mean, I like Adams and I like Wilson. I don't think I'll play Rodgers this week just because I think there's a lot of good plays at quarterback. But I'll have exposure to Adams. I'll have exposure to Wilson. I think both of these guys still have a huge ceiling. Like I said, the Jets throw the ball a lot. They throw the ball sixth most in the NFL. So, you get two teams that like chuck the football around, playing against each other in a game that should be very competitive. Both teams want to win. So I think overall you're taking some shots in the passing attack here with Adams and Wilson. If Hall sits, Allen is 5K. I mean, that would be a no-brainer. But I really do think that they give it a go. I think that Hall gives it a go is what I meant to say. Tennessee at Washington, 44.5 total here. Washington, a 5.5-point favorite. Struggling to like anything for Tennessee. I'll say, like, if Calvin Ridley ends up not playing with the ankle injury, Westbrook Akine would be someone I'd take some shots on here at 4,300. I know he scored a touchdown in 4 of the last 5 games, but I think he's like 6 out of the last 7 games. Always seems a way to find the end zone. So if Calvin Ridley doesn't give it a go, you could take some shots on him. You could take some shots on Tyler Boyd. I'm not playing Okongwu. I know he had that long touchdown, but I mean, look at the data for Okongwu. It's not him. So I think if Ridley plays, Westbrook Akine, but I really I want to highlight that if Spears sits, Pollard is going to play a ton. And this is a good matchup. Washington has struggled against the run all year. They're allowing the 4th most rushing yards. They're 28th in run EPA. Pro Football Focus grades them out as 29th in run defense. I think Tony Pollard, regardless if Spears plays or not, is a great play. But if Spears is out, Pollard's just not going to come off the field. So I forgot. I looked earlier and I already forgot his snap share last week, but it was 93.9%. Jonathan Taylor was the only running back higher. Jonathan Taylor, 96% last week, but Tony Pollard, 94% of snaps last week with Spears out. So definitely Tony Pollard if Spears is out in this good matchup. The Washington side, Jaden Daniels is someone that he had some upside last week. We saw him run the ball a lot more finally. He finally had like a early season type of game. So that obviously tells us that, they're feeling that he's getting healthier. I feel like a huge loss for Washington last week against Dallas, in my opinion. So I don't mind getting some exposure to Jaden. Watching the running back situation, Robinson was one of my favorite plays last week. He got hurt really early in that game. Eckler got a concussion. If both of these guys end up sitting, McNichols is 5,400, so I'd have some interest in him. Tennessee's pass defense continues to be extremely good. They've been good all year. It's a really tough team to target pass catcher-wise. Looking wide receiver-wise, they allow the third fewest fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers. So I'm hesitant here to really love anything. I think like McLaurin's yard share or air yard share and like his upside and his red zone target share is just phenomenal. So he'd be the guy that I'd play here. I don't mind Zach Ertz if you want a cheap tight end. I think he's a tight end that is definitely playable. As good as they are against the pass, they're kind of middle of the road against tight ends. And Ertz is a focal point, over 7 targets in 4 of his last 5 games. I do think, for what it's worth, I think both the Tennessee defense and the Washington defense is in play this week. I think that you could get some defensive production here from Tennessee at 2,400. We know they get after the quarterback. They've scored double-digit fantasy points in 2 of their last 4 games. They scored double-digit fantasy points last week against Houston while allowing, what they allow? 27 or something like that. It was they scored a lot of points, so they still got double digits. So I like Tennessee defense as a cheaper defense this week. All right, we got Tampa Bay at Carolina as we go to these 4 o'clock games. 46.5 total. Tampa Bay a 5.5 point favorite. First of all, I don't hate this spot for Baker. He is having another really strong season, and he's doing it without his guys. Mike Evans came back last week and ended up getting 6 targets in that game. He was on the field. He only ran a route on 56%, so I assume that we'll see a much higher percentage this week. We saw Sterling Shepard really get looked at a lot last week in that game against the Giants. I know he only had 5 catches for 16 yards, but he led the team in first read rate, so I thought that was interesting. I really just did not see the Cade Otton 3-target game coming. That was miserable for anybody like myself that had some Cade Otton, but here, this is what we do. We forget that week ever existed with Cade Otton, and we play him because Carolina is allowing the most fantasy points per game to opposing tight ends. They cannot stop them. Go back to the well on Cade in this spot. I think this is a great time to play him. My favorite play from Tampa Bay, not even close, is Bucky Irving. I think that this guy has tremendous amount of upside. I know that he splits the work with Rashard White. I don't care. I think Bucky has more ceiling. I really got tilted last week when they brought in Tucker to run it and try to score twice. I know he got stuffed and ended up not scoring, but man, that was extremely tilting last week when that happened. But I like Bucky a lot at 5,800. Carolina has been garbage, absolute garbage against running backs all season. We've been playing running backs against them all season. They allow the most fantasy points per game to running backs. Play some Bucky, play some Irving if you're playing, if you're MMEing, get some exposure to Irving as well. I would make a group and not play both of them together, but that's just me. I'm hoping for a stealing game out of one of them. Carolina side of this one, I mean, it's not like the Tampa Bay defense is any better. Jonathan Brooks only played 8.6% of the snaps last week. I don't think they go to him a lot this week either. So I think if you wanted to take some shots on Hubbard, you could. On the other hand, I think I want to play some Adam Thielen. I know. It's just playing anybody from the Panthers is hard for me, but I want to play some Adam Thielen, and I kind of want to play some David Moore. I don't think that 10 target David Moore game was a fluke. He ran a route on 87% of dropbacks last week. He had a 28.6% target rate. He was the first read 36% of the time. So I don't think it was a fluke. And he's 3,500 in a game script that should be good for him. I assume Jalen Cooker is going to be out. If Coker plays, if Coker plays, I have a lot less interest in Moore. But if Coker is out, I want to play David Moore. I just look at the stats. I mean, the stats were phenomenal. The advanced stats were phenomenal for him. I was looking at his expected fantasy points was 24.7. He scored 20, and his expected fantasy points were higher than that. So just to kind of give you an idea of every wide receiver that played in week 12, their expected fantasy points, David Moore was 5th. He was the 5th wide receiver, and that's above Trey McBride and the tight ends as well. The only 4 that were above him, Puka Nacua, Keenan Allen, Jacoby Myers, and Josh Palmer were the only 4 above him. So if Coker sits, I will go back to the well here on Moore. No doubt. But I do like Thielen. Love that he got back on the field last week, and we know that Bryce Young has a connection with him. Bryce Young is probably the cheap punt quarterback that I would play this week, but I don't think you have to. DeVito did not work out last week. That was not fun. All right, we got the Rams and the Saints. 2 phenomenal football games to finish the DraftKings slate anyway. The Rams 2.5-point favorite in this one. Like I said, 49.5. I don't know if I said it, so I'll repeat it, but 49.5 total here. Going to the Rams side, I mean, the Saints have really struggled against the run. If you want to pay up for Williams in this spot, do so and feel good about it because this is a really good spot for him. But I mean, I'm just going to keep playing Puka. He has so much upside. Each and every week, he just has so much upside. I mean, I love Cooper Kupp, and I think Cooper Kupp has upside as well. But, man, Puka is just getting the targets down the field. So I don't necessarily hate Stafford at his price. I think Stafford probably has to throw 3 or 4 touchdowns in this game to get there. But, man, I want to play Williams, Puka, and Kupp. There's plenty of value in other spots. So I think that this is one of those spots you just kind of pay up for these 3 guys. And, yeah, I mean, I like the Rams a lot this week. The Saints side, I don't think I'd go to Derek Carr. I like Kamara. I like Kamara even more if Williams ends up sitting. Again, the Rams, another team that we've kind of picked on all year with running backs. So it's a good spot for Kamara. Taysom Hill, 10 targets, 7 rushing attempts. I know he broke the 75-yard touchdown. He had an incredible game. He's going to be popular, I assume. I haven't looked at his ownership yet. Let's pull up lineup HQ. So Taysom currently is projecting for 2% ownership. I think that will change before Sunday. But TJ Hawkinson and Zach Ertz, Trey McBride getting a ton of the ownership at tight end this week. I hope that's the case. I'll play some Taysom for sure. Taysom and Kamara, probably the two that I'm targeting the most. I mean, if you want to take that shot on MVS and hope that he actually holds on to the ball, go for it. But I think it's Kamara and Taysom, and they'll take one or two deep shots with MVS. I mean, MVS, it's 4,500, and they're going to throw at least one or two deep ones to him. But yeah, coming off the bye, I assume that we see more stuff drawn up for Taysom here, but I think they get Kamara more involved this week too. He kind of struggled to get going against Cleveland, but I mean, also Taysom just absolutely dominated them. So pretty easy for me when it comes to the Saints. Taysom and Kamara main targets, and then like I said, I'll have some interest. I'll probably throw MVS in there just a little bit in large field tournaments. All right, we finished the DraftKings slate with the game of the week. Philadelphia at Baltimore. Baltimore 3-point favorite. This game has a 50.5 total. Going to the Philadelphia side here first. I mean, we talk about it every week. You beat Baltimore by throwing the football. But it's Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is having a MVP type season. So he is one of the few running backs that I have no issues playing against this awesome run defense. I like Hurts. I think that Hurts is in a really good spot this week. Want to see if Devontae Smith is going to be back. It's a hamstring injury. If he sits, AJ Brown might be my favorite wide receiver of the week. I would play a lot of him. Outside of him though, like that's the problem with this team is getting that next piece more than anything else. Like Goddard ran 65%. They use a little bit of Wilson. Dotson was out there for 73%. His air yard share was minus 3.6%. It was AJ Brown. It wasn't even remotely close, AJ Brown. 40% first read rate, 32% target rate, 61% of the air yards. So if Devontae Smith sits, I love AJ Brown. If Devontae Smith plays, I still like Brown. I like Smith. I like Goddard a lot if if Devontae sits, I will go back to some Goddard here. Again, 33% first read rate for him. He only had 5 targets in that game, but also Saquon kind of took that game over for Philadelphia. I mean, what did he end up having? It was like 302 total like scrimmage yards or something like that. It was something wild. So, yeah, I mean, I think Hurts, Barkley, AJ, if Devontae's out, love AJ. If Devontae plays, like both of them. If Devontae's out, like Goddard. Baltimore side here, this is a tough matchup. I mean, the Philadelphia defense has been playing phenomenal. I think I put Derrick Henry on the shelf this week. It might be a giant mistake to do that, but he's just not involved in the passing game enough for me. So I think I put him on the shelf and hope that he doesn't score 2 touchdowns. I think this is a take some shots on Zay, take some shots on maybe Bateman type week. I still want to see them get Deontay Johnson more involved. I think that we see Devontae Johnson get more involved within the next couple weeks, but I think Zay Flowers has a huge ceiling in this game. We see Philadelphia give up long plays all the time. Close football games, these are the types of games I like to play Andrews. I will say there's probably like 10 tight ends I like this week on a 10-game slate, which is wild. A lot of good tight end plays. So going to likely spread out my tight end ownership quite a bit, play more tight ends in the flex than I originally thought I would. But I mean, I don't mind. Andrews is 3,900, and these are the types of games where I feel like Mark Andrews really kind of is a huge weapon for Lamar. So FanDuel. Going to FanDuel's last game. I got to pull it up. I did not pulled up. That is my bad. But it's San Francisco at Buffalo. It has a 44.5 total. I know there's like some weather concerns for this game. Let me see if Roth posted a weather update with this game. NFL weather. I mean, watch the weather in this one because right now, Roth has it as yellow with a lot of some snow, not a whiteout, but he said that he'll update as it gets closer to the weekend. There could be a lot of wind in this game. So luckily we don't have to deal with this on DraftKings. Going to the San Francisco side here first. Obviously, it all depends on Brock Purdy playing or not. He was limited in practice on Wednesday. Christian McCaffrey and the offense couldn't get going at all last week with Purdy out. I know George Kittle had a really decent game. We'll call it that. Debo just nowhere. Juwan Jennings had targets, but if Brock Purdy plays in this game, maybe a little bit of Juwan Jennings at 6,100. I don't think I get to Christian McCaffrey at 8,800. I know that like you beat Buffalo on the ground, but as someone that has an Achilles injury right now that I'm dealing with, like I definitely don't want to get hit in the cold weather and try to run the ball. So just, I mean, Bijan, Williams, Kamara, Taylor, Jones, Bucky, Chase Brown, Tony Pollard, all of these guys under him, and then like just paying up a little bit more for like Joe Mixon or Saquon Barkley. But I mean, just overall, I don't think I get to Christian McCaffrey. If Brock Purdy plays, I'll probably end up playing a little bit of Juwan Jennings if the weather is not crazy. But Juwan Jennings is 6,100, which is a really fair price tag. And then on the Buffalo side, Josh Allen's 9K. I think that Josh Allen would have to have just an incredible ceiling game, which it doesn't seem like that type of game where we're going to have a ceiling game. I mean, there's a lot of low sevens, mid sevens, high six like quarterbacks that I could see playing over Josh Allen. I would prefer paying up for Jalen Hurts, which is $200 more than Allen on FanDuel. So it's going to be hard for me to play Josh Allen, especially if the weather's bad. He does have that like big game ceiling. James Cook at 7,800 is okay, just not my favorite play. Really, I don't necessarily love anything from this game. If Kincaid's out, maybe Knox, but I don't even know if I like that. I think if anything, I take some shots on Amari Cooper at 6,100. But I hope this game has a lot of wind and a lot of snow, and I don't have to worry about it. I probably won't end up getting a lot of exposure to this game on FanDuel this week. It's not my favorite game. All right, breaking it down in my Goofy movie shirt. And I don't know if you guys caught that, but man, like the Goofy movie. All right, morning grind game, and then we will get out of here. Just pull up my tab that actually has the game on it because I used to write it down, and like the game has gotten so much longer, so it's a lot harder for me to write it down nowadays. All right, got lineup HQ pulled up as well. Quarterback for 300 plus passing yards this week. I'm going to go CJ Stroud. I mean, it doesn't get much better than Jacksonville. I think CJ Stroud just comes out and chucks. I know we haven't seen him throw for 300 yards since week 5 against Buffalo, and you are worried a little bit about the blowout here, but I think that CJ Stroud gets it going this week. Nico Collins back. He's going to have a big game. Low on running back for a touchdown. Pull up ownership really quick. Listen, Bucky Irving is 12%. No doubt he's one of my favorite plays on the entire slate. So Bucky Irving at 12% ownership. I like Jonathan Taylor a lot as well at 10%. I hope those guys end up low on. Quarterback, wide receiver stack for a touchdown. A lot of great options for this question this week. I talked about a lot of them. trying to narrow it down to one. Give me, gosh. So, I mean, yeah, Herbert McConkey is a good one. I like so many quarterback plays this week. Give me Sam Darnold to Jefferson for my quarterback wide receiver stack for touchdown this week. I know it's kind of expensive, but we have some value. Wide receiver for 8+ targets. I mean, I already said this enough, but I'm going to keep saying it. Keep playing Puka. Just keep playing Puka. Personally, I don't think I don't think Bucky Irving's going to be monster chalk this week. DZ. And it's more of, we have a lot of good running back plays. There's a lot of good running back plays, especially now with Edwards too at 4,300. Like, I just don't think Bucky's going to get a ton of ownership. He should. He's a great play, but I don't think he's going to get a ton of ownership because we do have so many good running back plays, and pricing's a little soft. So that's why I don't think that like 12 to 18% is like that far off on him. But Puka Nacua, I already talked about this guy. This is one of the best bounce back spots you can get. Carolina allows the most fantasy points per game to opposing tight ends. Tight end for a touchdown. Give me Cade Otton for a touchdown this week. A lot of great spend up defense options just in general, but I'm going to go to that Tennessee Titans defense for 10+ points. I think that they are a very underrated defense. They have been all year. They're going to get after Jaden McDaniels in this game, or Jaden Daniels. Yeah. Jaden. God, I called him McDaniels. But yeah, Jaden Daniels he's gonna be on the run a little bit in this game. And Tennessee's pass defense and run defense a lot. Like I said, they're very underrated defense. So give me Tennessee's defense for 10+ points against the spread or money line bet this week. I mean, this one, I was looking at it earlier, and I'm going to go with what I originally thought. Give me Houston -4 against Jacksonville. That line just seems a little low. I know they're on the road, but I'm going to go Houston -4. My over-under bet, there's so many good games this week. I was struggling to find like an over that I liked. And then when we started talking more and more, I don't have anything. I'm just going to leave it at that. I haven't bet anything on my over-under bet this week. So I'm going to leave it at that. I don't like giving out like stuff when I don't personally bet it, but so I'm not going to give anything out for that. So as far as my player prop, I like a lot of stuff this week. I just haven't looked at lines yet. Let me see. There's a couple spots that I really, really like. So, gosh, I really like Jonathan Taylor's rushing this week, but I feel like 79 is not the number I wanted to see when I just pulled it up. So probably won't bet that initially. I'll have to do a little bit more research on that one. I like Bucky a lot. 56 seems low. Yeah, I'm going to go with Bucky's rushing prop. Again, I really like him this week, but I like that number. He's rushed for that in back-to-back games, and Carolina's really bad against the run. So I'm going to bet that now. Bucky Irving over 56.5 rushing yards is my bet this week. Let's see what the Hard Rock has it at. I was looking at our back-end page on Scores and Odds that has all the lines. So rushing for Bucky, 56.5. So I just bet that. I like that. Hope everyone has a fantastic Thanksgiving. I'm going to go try to get some sleep because I know my kids are going to be up early tomorrow. Appreciate everyone in chat hanging out. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind YouTube page. We're back on Friday, NBA Cup Day, huge slate, talking some hoops. Good luck, everyone. We'll see you then.